But this time I was playing with the Yankees because the Yankee Stadium had a crack, and we were playing the Angels, and at Shea Stadium we had to move a day game over there, and I hit a home run in the left field, and there it is. The apple starts to come up, and as the apple coming up, and it gets closer to the Mets logo, boop, they pull it back down because they realize I don't have a Met uniform on. I have a Yankee uniform on. So I mean, it was a fun time.
That's right. We're back with another preview of the latest episode of the Legends of Sports podcast, hosted by my guy, Andy Bernstein, the official photographer for the Lakers, Clippers, and Staples Center. And in this episode, he talks with former Dodgers and MLB All-Star Darryl Strawberry. He's here to tell us all about it now. Andy, appreciate you joining the show as always. And by the way, thanks for the last time we talked. Jamal Crawford, Jay Crossover, ended up giving your boy a follow. So I appreciate that. Let's get into this. Darryl, he's from L.A. He went to Crenshaw High School. And you even got to get the chance to shoot him when he was playing with the Dodgers. So tell me a little bit more about what that was like and just the man in general.
Well, the first time I met Darryl is when he came to the Dodgers, and he'd already had a tremendous career with the Mets, but he was coming home to the Dodgers, and I was a team photographer at that point. And he was always very gracious, very nice. I actually went to his introductory press conference, and his family was there, and he got to play with his childhood friend Eric Davis, which was really amazing for both of them because they both grew up down in South Central LA and played at rival high schools, but they were really great friends. So Eric had come from Cincinnati, and then Darryl from the Mets. So that was fun, and I got to know him a little bit. But now it's a whole new ball game for him, and he would say he put on a whole new uniform.
He did, and for sure. And I'm very familiar with his story. I know that not every one of our viewers is, so we'll get to that right now. He had an amazing career, and in the middle of that, he started to have a lot of personal struggles with drugs and some other things as well. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. How deep and how real or raw did he get with you? Because I've seen him talk about his story, and I know that he really likes to tell the truth about it all.
Well, Kelvin, he got really honest with me, and his book is very revealing, and he talks about all of his difficulties, mental health issues, his drug issues, how that held him back as a player, as a human being. And we at Legends of Sport like to get those messages out. We like to be able to discuss honestly and openly some issues that might be more difficult to talk about on other platforms. But I'm happy to share my story. He was happy to share his story. And together we had a tremendous conversation. I have to tell you, it's probably one of my 5 best interviews that I've done over 3 years.
Now, I can't wait to hear it, Sim, if you're saying that, because you've had some really great guests. I don't know if you talked about this, so I'm just going to ask you. If you didn't, don't worry about it. We'll move on. Did he talk a little bit about just, because I've always been curious. I've been in the sports world for some time now, and you look at the numbers of the decrease in African Americans playing baseball. He was in an era when it was probably at its height. It wasn't uncommon to have multiple African Americans on a team. That's not the case now. Did he talk about that at all?
We didn't speak about that in the podcast because there was so much to talk about, but I wish we had brought that up, and maybe that will be in a follow-up down the road. But he does speak pretty eloquently about it in his book. He's very vocal about it. One thing about Darryl, he doesn't hold back. He has an opinion on something, he will voice it. And the book, he did spend quite a bit of time talking about what has happened in baseball, how he views baseball now. He doesn't hold any grudges or anything, but he definitely has his opinions.
Right there on the screen, Turn Your Season Around. That is his book, Darryl Strawberry's book. Let's talk about, all right, so he had these great highs, winning World Series with the Mets, and then, of course, we had those lows. But now anybody who's followed him the last maybe 10, 15 years, his career, I know he's done HBO Real Sports and whatnot, you get to really get his story. He became a man of the cloth, and that is really what turned his season, his life around. Tell us about that, how he found faith and really found redemption.
Well, I think it goes back to his Mets days. I mean, he talks about being friends with Gary Carter, the great catcher for the Mets, and Mookie Wilson, who played for the Mets, and how they always had this sense of calm about them. They seemed to be, even in the most difficult circumstances and most pressure, they seemed to have this sort of, calmness about them that got them through. And Darryl was curious about that. He was going through some difficult times, and he found out through Gary and his relationship with Gary that Gary had found Christ, and then he turned his life over, and that was, his path. And it took Darryl a while to kind of get there. He had some more ups and some more downs, and finally he was in his second bout of cancer and not feeling really good about himself and about life. And that's when he decided that, wow, I got to do something. And his wife, Tracy, was very instrumental in getting him into rehab, but then also helping him find that path. And together now they're evangelists and they're spreading the word.
You just mentioned something there as we're running low on time, that he wasn't just fighting those demons, if you will, of drugs and whatnot. He also was fighting colon cancer, as you mentioned. So he just has a wonderful story, wonderful testimony, that's for sure. And I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful episode of Legend of Sport with you, my man, Andy. So again, tell the people how they can find the podcast.
Well, the podcast is distributed by the LA Times, but on all the podcast networks, Apple, Spotify, and whatever. It's called Legends of Sport. And you can find us also on social media at Legends of Sport on Instagram and at Legends_of_Sport on Twitter. And our YouTube, TikTok channels, Legends of Sport. So all the podcasts are coming out in video as well as in audio. I
got to step my game up. Andy, you're on TikTok. I'm on TikTok, but there's not a lot of ticking and talking going on, that's for sure. Andy, thank you for joining us.
Kelvin, I got a 12-year-old. She had to get me on TikTok.
Well, mine is still too young, Andy, thank you, man. We appreciate it.
Always great to see you.